7 paragraphs came out, and this was this whole thing with, do you use paragraphs? It's not that structured data as it used to be, and people were kind of reluctant to use it. And then Layout Builder comes in, which is kind of upheaving the whole field even more. But the editors like it. It's not, the user experience is not as great yet. It's improving constantly, and it allows people to do better pages. And now the Gutenberg project was ported and released, and you can now, I'm not sure who was at the presentation yesterday of the Gutenberg project in Drupal, you can now do really complex things in the body field, simply in the WYSIWYG, doing really nice layouts, and you can actually post them into cloud and pull them in a different Drupal install. And you don't use blocks anymore, you kind of just use HTML, but with React frontend, which is really nice and shiny. And what do we use? What should we tell our clients? They want good editorial experience, but then we want to give them search. We want to use Drupal. How do we progress? When do we use what? Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me just say a couple of words about these different tools that we've got. Remember back in the days of Drupal 7, we had the entity construction kit. That's just it gives you UI where you can just create new entity types. Okay. Building on that, then Paragraphs took that concept and it allows you to build entity references. That's just the main thing, right? You've got entities, you've got the fields, and in the background, when you create your paragraphs and paragraph types, it's just like creating a load and a load type. And then you can then, in the background also, it does the entity references for you. It's also like field groups, okay, where you've got that backend to where you can add your fields, groups for you, and then you can then reference those fields. Basically, we want to reuse content. So that's what all this is all about. And Gutenberg, I don't know too much about it. I only attended a session when we were talking about whether to use it or not last year at Drupal Europe in Germany. So all these tools, for instance, even Layout Builder. The Layout Builder is to allow you to add content, to arrange your content in blocks, different parts. That's the presentation layer. So we've got tools for different things. So when we want to talk about these 4 tools, right, we just need to concentrate more on what it's not like it's either or the other. It could be a combination of the two, right? So, yeah, so that's all I would like to say at this point.
Yeah, yesterday we also saw the presentation with Gutenberg. It can be, it looks great, I would say, but maybe that doesn't have experience yet about that. It's interesting to test and see, maybe to use it in future. As for Layout Builder and Paragraphs, it's quite different tools. Layout Builder in the core is a good thing, but it's not perfect yet, I would say. And when you're choosing the solution for your project, you also need to understand what your clients need. For example, when the site is migrated, for example, from Drupal 7, which already can use paragraphs, there can be a good experience from the content editor side, so the client doesn't want to change it, for example, because it's still flexible solution and powerful enough. It also can be used we can use both solutions, I would say. And if we are talking also about the reusable content, there is one more tool, which looks exactly like paragraph. It's called the widgets module, which allows you not only to use the same entity types like paragraphs, but also reuse content between the nodes, which can be really cool feature.
This is quite an interesting question for me because from these three, use only paragraphs because layer builder is like a new thing. As far as I remember, it's from the end of the 2018. I didn't use it yet, but from the last year on the DrupalCamp 2018, I'm started to use paragraphs because this was the time when I first learned about this solution. And I can tell you that this is a very good tool in compared to previous tools that Drupal offered to end user to create the pages. For example, I work with a company where there weren't good back-end developers, and I just gave paragraphs with the Bootstrap CSS framework, and the person was able to do everything without having the wisdom of how it's created, and it was really good. About the Gutenberg and the other tools, I think I will try to implement this year, but currently I'm not experienced that much, and from the information I get, I still cannot recommend it or not, or the wisdom I have currently. Thank you.
Let me be again the guy who doesn't know Drupal, because yeah, there are 3 or already 4 solutions for basically targeting the same functionality. But the thing is, I just don't know that. That's one thing. Second, because I'm taking the hat of being a security professional, I would highly recommend the one that is managed by Drupal core, which is only one layout builder. Second, paragraph is, I just checked it now, is a very actively maintained contrib module, which has a stable version in Drupal 8. By the way, it doesn't have a stable version in Drupal 7. We can print, contribute. But the thing is, if the contrib module has a stable version, it means Drupal security team has a coverage. So if something is discovered, it will be discussed in the private issue queue and will be released on a Wednesday evening for us. Gothenburg, I would just put there one thing which happened last year with the project on the WordPress community. There were some issues with accessibility. I don't know how is the project now. Maybe someone can provide some insight. Would be really highly appreciated. But the thing is, until something is not accessible for all users, like, these things like diversity and inclusion, and we really want to get everyone, up and running and being able to work with, until that moment doesn't arise, then we should take that point also into account when we evaluate a new tool to be used for content editing. And also, yeah, like a few years ago, there were all these tools kind of nowhere, and what we did, like playing with what you see is what you get things, right? Like those CK editor thingies, remember? So I think in the last few years, we stepped a huge up, like forward, getting on the field of understanding the needs, reusability, accessibility, security, got, big highlight. So, yeah, that's all.
If you go to o2.co.uk, now, that homepage is all paragraph based. You see? And if you go to our product page, logo, paragraph based. And that's the only thing here, not paragraph based. in this lecture. These are that all these so you can actually have a slide built entirely with paragraphs. Now, this is they are in blocks, right? And the blocks have to be managed in the back end, right? So that output, I believe, could have been done with layout builder. So you can create your content, usable content based on paragraphs. And when you want to build the UI, you can then use layout builder to place the blocks, because you can have paragraph content in blocks. You can use this either or.
Thank you.
I don't know which one was it, but like a few months ago I saw a tweet about having serious performance issues with, I guess it was with paragraph, regarding the revisions. Do you remember? Right? So if we talk about like reusability, serving best the needs of the client, we should also take care of performance, right? Do you have some words?
So we've been using paragraphs quite heavily on all of our new Drupal 8 sites, using our design system and using atomic design ideas. So Lego blocks with Lego blocks, to put together these websites. And, the first website seemed like it was going great. The team was still learning, but a lot of the problems we discovered didn't come out. They weren't apparent until you have not just like a dozen paragraphs, but like dozens or even hundreds with the revisions, with multilingual. That's really where the scalability problems started coming up. So the thing I'm very, as like the lead front-end architect, the thing that scares me is when I see a tool, a really promising tool like Gutenberg or even Layout Builder or CK Editor, and I hear that's going to solve all of our problems. I'm also I'm worried that it's just going to move the problem to another place, and then that's going to be the thing that doesn't scale. These are powerful tools, but is this one tool going to fix the authoring and the maintainability issue, or is it simply going to change where the problems exist?
Thank you.
Sure. The problem here with the maintainability and scalability issues is like even in Drupal core there is no solution to automatically remove quite old revisions. So even Drupal core has that thing, not removing, like, I don't know, if there is one content having over a year ago created revisions might not make that much sense to still store in the whatever backend. So there might be something that we even can contribute on and make that happen to make Drupal a better place and marketing. Okay, let's go for it.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add anything to that? Okay, so let's move to the next question. So, sure.
I'm just wondering, because I haven't used this layout builder module yet, but I'm wondering, is it possible to use both paragraph and layout builders, like put something like you said, like create those paragraphs inside, and then allow like a content editor or somebody to just put those paragraphs inside those blocks and layout builders. What do you think about it? Is it like oh, you have
So
we've experimented with exactly that, with having blocks that host paragraphs, for instance, and right now, the UI just doesn't work. The UI for editing paragraphs inside Layout Builder just breaks, including trying to use, there's a module called Layout Builder Modal, which moves the Layout Builder block editing interface to a modal instead of that sort of sidebar tray. And still, paragraphs just doesn't work in that yet, but it's promising. I mean, it just needs someone to work on it to make it work, but right now I don't think it's viable.
Anyone else? Okay, so the next question that is upvoted is headless Drupal. It's a very big topic, I mean, in the Drupal community, I suppose. Decoupling, right? Front-end React, Drupal in the backend only. And there are all sorts of solutions like Gatsby.js, for example, recently is a very popular solution to make Drupal really fast because the front-end is cached with React. I mean, the Gatsby is a tool that kind of is a front end and then it caches pages as well. So it serves these really quick pages and it preloads pages. So it's really, really fast. Next.js, another library like that. And overall approach to decoupling Drupal, Dries wrote about this quite a few times in his blog post that this might be a way to do it. And there are companies who actually now do headless Drupal as the primary solution. But so it has probably some pluses, but then it has minuses, right? Like, you kind of lose a lot of what Drupal gives you, like, templating, regions, layouts, blocks. You don't have all that already immediately. But then again, maybe it's a solution. Like, so when do we use headless Drupal? How do we use it? What should be the approach to that? Maybe, yeah.
To be honest, I can't imagine myself using headless Drupal. The thing is, if you got a small website and you want to make it work fast, you would probably most likely create a static web page. This is the first thing. And for the bigger sites like commerce solution for Drupal, headless Drupal won't be good enough for commerce solutions. So, I'm thinking if I'm thinking about a headless Drupal, the only solution that would be good is for the APIs, for other applications, and that's all, in my opinion.
Again, I just don't know Drupal. But the thing is here with the decoupled one, I would put there another aspect, saying not only the front end from the back end could be decoupled, but if you are just, okay, I'm coming again with the WordPress. I'm not a WordPress, it's not paid advertisements, so don't worry. Because I love Joomla. So the thing is, if you think about WordPress, that they have there is basically also a sort of decoupled approach, saying different places and different almost different lookalike front end that you show to your visitors, and what is in the back end that is managing like back office, activities. So why not just, decoupled as an approach? Okay, front end, the layer that we use for different by different technologies, React, Angular, whatever, and Drupal just serves as an API. That's API first. But in the other side, also we have the decoupled approach for just decoupling the front end from the back office. So that might be also something that we could experience if we just don't want to go for God knows what reason for headless Drupal. I mean, just reflecting on
it. I think headless solution may be best suited for, let's say, a global company that's got different sites for different countries, right? And they want to share content. You've got something like a content repository that will serve content with REST API, and because the content is not not being managed by the end site, that may be a way of actually managing the UI, right? So you can have a different UI for France, a different UI for Belgium, a different UI for Poland, but the content is being pulled from a single content repository. So yeah, so that may be the solution for them to use headless. But one other thing that I can say in this topic, headless, is just hype. Just like, Vue.js, React.js. I think every month there is a new JavaScript framework, right? That's hype, so you can see, yeah. So it's not just hype, so it's not, it's using the right tools for the right jobs. So I think that's it, yes. So yeah, headless is not for every site, it's not for every solution. So yeah, so that's all I can say.
Alexander, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's quite interesting thing to discuss, and I would say it can be paying one place for you if you will choose headless Drupal, because it really should be chosen only if you need to have that. I can agree it's not the solution for commerce sites, but the checkout, it works well. It's not that decoupled Drupal, it's just a checkout on the React, quite good. But right now, we have the site in production, which is business to business. During discussions, front-end team, it was decided to use React because React is cool, blah, blah, blah. We will do everything on React. And unfortunately, administration team, back office team, also done in React. And it's a huge problem because you need to build everything, and you lose so much time building the Drupal from scratch, I would say, because we can't use anything what is provided Drupal mostly. So you should be really, really careful when you choosing solution for your site.
I might actually add to that myself. We had these discussions in our company as well, and we use these front-end frameworks a little bit with Drupal. Sometimes, for example, because what they give you as well, what you have to think about is the really nice UI, like it works fast in, on phones and such. So, for example, if you have a very complex form that a user has to go through like 5 stages, and depending on what he answers, different fields show up. Now, Drupal kind of allows you to do that with, the form state and all that, but it reloads the whole page, and it's a very tedious process for a user to go through, especially on a phone. So, for example, we were building these like sections of a page, for example, like if you have a very complex form or some tool that the user has to click a lot, that helps him to go through, some logic really quickly with front end without having to go back to the server for, showing the answers. Another approach, which we took as well, is which is similar to what you said, but a bit different. Like we for example had a very big Drupal 7 site with a lot of logic in the back end, a lot of mechanisms and such, and the clients wanted to create kind of a satellite site that would just show some of the data from the big website. And then we just kind of set up an API and use React to just kind of show this. And this is for an end customer who can kind of quickly find data, sort through it, and this was a good solution as well then. But if I were to build enterprise company's portal, the whole thing on headless, I'd be really reluctant, because I would be like, we have in Drupal, we have so many things, why would we build it from scratch exactly? Who else has done decoupled Drupal or has any progressively decoupled? Cool. Okay, so the next question we have here is very technical. Let's see how we tackle that. So due to design systems, front-end is getting more and complex. So I suppose, so what's your opinion on using template pre-process hooks? Should they be avoided as much as they can? So I'm not sure, to explain a little bit more about this question. So we have the new, so the modern approach to building the front end is creating design systems. There are various approaches like atomic design, where you create kind of your atoms, then like buttons and elements, and then from these you compile the whole element, and these whole elements are then compiled into organisms. So you don't theme each page separately, but you have a design system of components that you reuse all over your website, and this creates your page. Now in Drupal you can achieve that. Like many, there are like the most popular tool probably right now is Pattern Lab, that allows you to work with that. Now using Pattern Lab with Drupal, which we have done quite a lot of that, has its ups and downs, and one of them is pre-processing all the variables a lot to output them, into Pattern Lab the way they're supposed to be output there. And I guess this is a question about the whole setup.
Actually, I did something related to that early this year. Now, the Pattern Lab built atoms, molecules, and organisms, and I was to integrate that into the Drupal. I found out that it wasn't easy at first. However, you can always pre-process the variables for the different atoms or molecules, right? So what I did was I simply copied HTML from Pattern Lab and into the template, removed all the static text, and then each of the elements there are now pre-processed the content so as to have variables that will go into those different parts of it. And I also had to maybe even while pre-processing, sometimes I build and I combine an atom with molecule, right? So that I have them. But it was quite an interesting solution. So yes, it's not, like I always say, it's not either or. You can have both. And I've used both, and I will to suggest using both. So,
let me be the security guy now. So the thing is, if we talk about this topic, never forget we have two supported Drupal core versions, 7, 8. If we talk about 8, you are basically safe. You can do almost whatever you want in the pre-process hooks or whatever place in your theming layer, and it's gonna be just safe because of twig. Never forget, in Drupal 7 we don't have twig. You always have to sanitize everything. So if we take a look around Drupal and seeing the future, either going to the way of going to those atomic stuff, or thinking about big step further, which can be just not known today what's going to be the next. Then we always, I always have to think about how it will be the most safest for enterprises and also for small companies. Drupal 8 is great because we have twig. it sanitizes everything until the moment you start to use raw data. So please do not. Or if you do, sanitize it. Yeah, kind of.
Really, can't tell much more than gentlemen on the right and gentlemen on the left. I think everything what needed to be said was said. Or you want to say something, add anything to it? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You use design systems, you said already, so that you probably have this problem.
Maybe this is a little selfish of a question, but because like 2 or 3 of you already mentioned Pattern Lab. Who here has used Pattern Lab? Go check it out. It's really great. But there's more than one way that you can use it. You don't have to. Yeah. I'm one of the core maintainers of Pattern Lab, so trying to make it more Drupal friendly is one of our top priorities.
That's very interesting. Right. So let's move further. How to manage with transfer content from old site to the new one. Right. So how do we migrate? That I think that's probably right. Like you have Drupal 7 and now Drupal 8, and you have to migrate. Like there's migrate inside of Drupal, which is an automatic update, but usually you have your own data and additional stuff, and it's not really gonna work. So
Drupal, there are many ways to transfer Drupal site from one place to another.
I mean, from the old site to the new one. So I think the question is
about from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8?
Yeah, I think
this could be painful. Very painful. So I don't know how I didn't transfer. So Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 site was more like recreating from the experience I had. I was mostly like, it would be better to recreate it to avoid some problems that may occur than to port it from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. From my experience, it was really hard a year ago. Don't think it changed currently. There is a synchronization tool, but the synchronization tool from Drupal 8 is, I guess, different than the one from Drupal 7. So, yeah, there are many known solution for me that would make it easier to port Drupal 7 site to Drupal 8 site. Even systems, you need to rewrite the systems. There won't be available magical tool that will allow you to magically turn your modules from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 modules. You need to rewrite many things because many functions has been deprecated in Drupal 8. And what else I can say is, it will be difficult, but it will be a really good thing to port it to Drupal 8 because as we already know, Drupal 8 is much more, got many tools that helps creating high-value products. And definitely for me, it's much more better than Drupal 7.
Because we just don't see who asked that. Could that gentleman or lady raise the hand? Okay, thanks. So are you asking here mainly about content migration? Because I think we are getting the whole discussion a little bit different. So like how from an old site, even not Drupal, maybe all the content, so not functionality, it has to be always rebuilt. But to massively put them to the new Drupal 8 site, I guess, right? That's the topic. Great. I'm giving you up.
Okay. We did this couple of times. For us, there is not much solution. Migrate module, which is quite flexible, allows you to write your own plugins. So we migrated from the Drupal 6 to Drupal 8. Also, it was some custom CMS where we have only the databases source. We have to discover where the content is stored. Custom plugin servicing went well in the end. It was some pain due to content structure was changed, so we have to work on that part a bit, but
I would also focus on that part when the new site will be, deployed and replacing the previous one, until that moment, okay, there is a development phase or whatever iterations, yeah. But basically, the dev team has to somehow maintain two sites parallel, and how the new content happening on the old site will be transferred to the new one. So that's why migrate helps a lot. If everything, I just heard, if everything is set up properly. But until the moment the new site is launched, there are heavy activities between the old and the new one, right?
Try it out is also to, you may try to export this into like the file like CSV file and try to prepare the API of the Drupal site to migrate the data and make the Drupal change the data you sent into content types and the records of the content types on the new site. This is the only solution that may help you.
It also depends, like, we as programmers also usually have developers have this mindset of let's write a migration. I always try to be this person who says how much data do we really have, because if you have 100 posts, you might write a migration, but it might actually be quicker to just kind of copy and paste them, and it doesn't really make sense then to write the migration, test them and all that, if you can just kind of move data manually. Like, it's not as elegant, I would say, but it might work. Also in Drupal you have the upgrade module, which might be a solution as well. You can actually upgrade from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8 all of your data. If these are nodes and there are no custom fields, that might also be a solution. That might work. It probably will not be ideal. I mean, you will not get a beautiful new website, but you might get content over, you might work with it further. So depending on the website, the type of website it is, it might be also a solution. Yeah, sure.
In projects we are working, I have quite big experience with migrations, and my experience is quite good too. It's useful, especially if you have a lot of data, and it's impossible to mention to do that manually. Even with changes of structure. So we had old structure in Drupal 7. We know that it wasn't perfect. We changed that on Drupal 8, and in migration process we can define how to map data between them. So that's quite powerful tool. So I think the migration works good if you know how to use it. The problem is when you are looking for simple cases, you can easily find that on the internet. In these cases, when you have some more complex processes inside, sometimes it's even hard to ask right question to Google, yeah. And even if you write, even if you do that, sometimes the result is not on your first 10 results of in Google. So documentation could be much better, especially for advanced cases. So here probably it's a big problem with migrations. And getting back to headless, because I have no chance to talk about that. We also used headless, and headless for us was useful when we have multiple sources of data and one front-end site to show that data. So previously we had problem that we had to integrate data from multiple sources, multiple standards. Some of them were very old, so that was the problem. Now we have multiple sources. One of them is Drupal site. We have something named Content API above that, and then we have front-end site which uses only Content API requests. So for front-end team, it's very easy to get data because there is standard for that. We are integrating here multiple sources, so yes, headless can be useful for bigger sites, I guess. So with multiple sources, this is one of the cases.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure. I think we are kind of meeting the middle, so it's now almost 11 o'clock. So how about we break for sure. Okay.
So as far as I understand, the migration API is a good thing to migrate from Drupal 7 to 8. But what about things called content staging? When you have one website on Drupal 8, and you have like the staging environment, and the content editor, they're putting some new content on the site so the client can check how does it work. And then after, I don't know, a week and half a year or something like that, because sometimes it happens, the owner of the website is telling, okay, so put this content on this new website, on this production website. Do you think that using migration API is also a good thing for it, or how would we solve it? Because there were some changes on the production website, and this is the content, so you can't copy the database. So do you have any solutions for things like that?
Well, personally, in my experience, we didn't do that, but in theory, there is not much difference between where from you copy and migrate your content from Drupal 8.7 or another Drupal 8 site. It's the same. You can control everything with custom plugins. You need to work on the source, what content should be copied. That's it, I guess. Maybe something like that.
There is this question. The thing is, when you have multiple environments, such as prod, UAT, yet another acceptance, one for the devs, one for the, I don't know, UX dudes, things like that, then you obviously meet these issues, how content can be transferred between these environments. What I would point out here is, do you always need those content that are on the production side? Like the real content do you need? Because if you do, then you are ending up somewhere as a webmaster doing everything with the content how it's imagined. That's where I feel like layout builder and paragraphs are like bringing us to madness. But in the other hand, if you do need all the data from production, you are still not the owner of the website. So always sanitize. The other way around. Great, I said nothing.
There's also, I haven't used it, but there's also a module which is, I think it's still in, it's not a stable version yet, but it's going to be in Drupal core. It's called Spaces, which, right? Workspaces, yes. Yeah, Workspaces, which creates this dev site on your production site where you have content which is just in the spaces, and you can kind of click through the product, and you can then stage a lot of, like, you can add content to your dev space or your stage space. You can have a look at it, show it, and then you can stage it. I haven't used it, but that's supposed to be a solution to these. You have to tell your client, well, you have to fast.
It's a possible solution for your problem. There is a module called default content. You can move like custom blocks, menus, content, all the like relations. For example, content depends on paragraphs and its content. Also, your content type relates to taxonomy, etc., etc. It can like export everything, and you can move to test, to production. So, for example, content editors work on development, created content, your client approved everything, you just pack everything and move to production, and new content appears on production. Yeah. What? Yeah. No, it will just use the next ID, and it won't be a conflict. So I just like a few weeks ago I moved content. Yeah. Thank you. And about migration from 6 to 8, for example, you can export your data, like use data export in CSV or XML or something like that. And on Drupal 8, you can write your migration. Or I heard that feeds model even for Drupal 8 is something like stable or near to stable. I didn't use, but you can inspect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have a break now for a few minutes? Okay, I think we can start again. Just to let you know what we are doing, I am deleting the questions that we have already covered. I'm just leaving those that we haven't talked about so that we can have a clear view of what's there, not cluttered with the old questions that we already know the answers to. So, distributions is our next question. Should we use them? When? How? What to think? Yeah, this is the question. Like, there are many distributions in Drupal. There are many distributions in Drupal 7 that have been there in Drupal 7 that are not available in Drupal 8 anymore. And this is a tricky scenario of, for example, like you have really nice distributions like Thunder for the publishing industry, Open Social for the social, for the community website. And like Droptica, my company, we also created Droppler for company websites. But then again, if you look at the history of distributions, it's not as bright as it was. Like we have Open Atrium in 7 that wasn't really migrated over to 8, and all sorts of other distributions that kind of just stopped at some point. But then again, the distributions do help a lot, like Commerce Kickstart in Drupal 7 probably helped to kickstart the whole, acceptance of Drupal commerce in the Drupal world, because it really fast-tracked a lot of shops. So, well, what do you think? Should we use them? Should we build from scratch? When? How to approach that?
It depends, because I think the history of distribution is like with a cheesecake. Everyone likes cheesecakes, but for some people, dried grapes in a cheesecake is like, I don't like it. And the distributions there are many distributions that change the mechanics of the base Drupal. There was like, I don't remember if it was like in a Drupal 7, a distribution that used the code and solution of Drupal 6. I don't remember the name. But most likely distributions are good if we want to create something quicker from because distribution is some sort of template that we can use to achieve some goals. If there is a distribution that helps us create something faster, then why not? But most likely, I'm used to the base Drupal 8 distribution, not distribution, the Drupal base Drupal 8 standard version, thank you very much, than the distribution. But yeah, there are many good distribution, like for websites. There is a Droppler from Droptica, very good distribution of Drupal. And it always depends what do you like, what do you want to achieve. That's all.
I would reflect on the point why or how distros could be present on Drupal 8. If they are, for instance, you mentioned Open Atrium. So the thing is, usually a distribution such as a heavy one, like Atrium, uses incredibly amount of controls, right? what happens if those contribs are still not ported to Drupal 8? So even though the producer of a given distribution is able to or is willing to invest heavily to rewrite the code, because we just talk about code, there is no content usually, or building up a migration path for the content from 7 to 8 for users who use them. But still the question is always the contribs. Take a look on Drupal.org. Currently there are about, I don't know the exact numbers, but I guess about 9,000 stable Drupal 7 contribs, and we are just getting above 1,000 in Drupal 8, and I'm only talking about stable modules. So there are like, I don't know, 2-3 times more that are not stable, like, alpha, beta, whatever dev version. The question for me here is, if we have a big contributor team that heavily invests on porting or migrating code from D7 to D8 for a distribution, don't they have that extra resource to help also the bigger community to port contribs, to step up and say, okay, there is organic groups, which is kind of a pain. It's still not available as a stable module in Drupal 8. Okay, we got the groups, we got the whatever, open social, for instance, that are like community things, but still not OG. I used to be a big fan of it. I used to sprint last year in Lisbon with Peter Franson, who kind of stepped up in the name of the European Commission to make that organic group be ported to Drupal 8. Still, we are not there. And Lisbon was like a year ago, right? So it's crazily huge work. And that's what we are all here for, for DrupalCamp Poland, DrupalCamp whatever, India, and all these great events to give the chance to people contribute. If we step up to say, okay, for instance, now the biggest topic is to migrate and clean up the code bases to be ready for Drupal 9. If we put that effort there, I mean, we all put that effort there, devs, non-devs, PMs, UX guys, whatever, then we can make marketing catch Drupal the better product, right? Let's do that.
John, let me just take us back to where distributions came from. Now, you know that there are lots of contrib modules that require to build a site. It's not the same set you need for, let's say, education site, not the same for e-commerce, that kind of thing. So each time you want to build a site of a particular type, you've got to download tens of modules here and there. Distributions make that process simpler because the same set of modules are used for different types of sites, more or less. So these are pre-bundled themes, contrib modules, and sometimes custom ones. That was before the stage where you now have Composer. Composer is dependencies for you. So if you want to be in control of what you've got, well, you can do it now, distributions. And if it's a professional team, you can have different composer-based installations for different solutions, right? So then you cut out the distributions, because sometimes there may be issues with upgrading the distributions, right? Maybe you want to upgrade from 8.3 to 8.7, And somehow, because of the dependencies in the distribution, we are not able to sort of do that easily. If you are in control, you can easily swap out different versions of modules, right? And you can do your upgrade. You can even say, oh, I no longer need this one. I'm going to use this instead. You are in control of the set of modules you've got. Working with the distributions, you are tied to the release process. So that's all I can say. If you want flexible, you don't need distributions. If you want to have something supported by the community and you don't have much custom code, yeah, go ahead with the distribution and make your life easier.
Who uses distributions here? You guys use distributions? You use distributions. So not that many people. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, what is the easy way to make Drupal core and modules update automatically? Okay, well, please answer.
Many ways. Easy, none of them. So the thing is, with updating Drupal core and modules and themes and libraries and everything, in Drupal 8 we have the composer. Just let it go. I mean, it works pretty well. Composer update, boom, everything breaks. Happens. In the other way around, if you think about security updates, which is kind of like a painful topic for everyone, especially for the people who use patches, who tries to fork something, not necessarily using the latest version because of some compatibility issues or having no support contract for the client, these things. I would highly suggest a commercial product, not necessarily for the commercial part to pay for it, but at least to use it as a monitoring system. It's called Drupal. So basically, you can subscribe there. If you have a Git repo, just put it there from GitHub. They also use other integrations, Bitbucket, as far as I remember. Sorry? DropGuard, like Guardian. Yeah. So basically what they do is scanning your code base, making sure all the versions are extracted. And if you use their commercial versions, like subscription, then they basically from A to Z allowing you everything to be customized. So, for instance, we at the Commission use their services saying, okay, if there is a certain threshold that we set up, saying if it's highly critical or critical update, core and or modules or projects, we call them in Drupal, then go ahead. So like arrive to production, update the thing, do some SSH commands such as drcco or cr, and do the thing. If it's lower, because they also have some Jira and Redmine integration, then create an issue. I mean, every time create an issue. Then move it to one column like testing. Create the branch, ask a pull request, and everything is there for the dev team in the next morning. It's amazing. Okay, it has a cost, but if you want to just keep yourself up to date mentally, use it as a free service, easy, set it up, and you will see what are the problems with your site. The other solution, though, is using update module. Do you remember update? Kind of an old thing in Drupal core. It only throws you the issues, nothing really else. It doesn't automatically update. Why I use the automatic update phrase? Because there is an initiative, right, in Drupal org saying for Drupal 7 and Drupal 8, we will have, hopefully soon, a contrib module called automatic update. Yeah, just check it out. And basically, it not just signs you or like notifies you for the thing that happens in or happens by update module, but also does that automatic update. Never forget. We know one community who made that automatic update back in 2012, 2013, long time ago. They start with a W, okay? They not just failed, they basically crashed their whole entire infrastructure by an exploit. So everyone updated, relied on their services, and boom, crashed. So that's why in Drupal we are super careful. I know there are no ways currently to automatically, like blindly update Drupal core contrib. I know. There will be never. But at least we are safe.
Okay, anybody wants to add to that? Good, indeed. I mean, for example, we in DrupalCamp we support many websites, and a security update is a lot of work, and we are working exactly like I would be really wary of an automatic upgrade in production. I would also be wary of an untested upgrade in production. I would rather check first that it actually works. Like if you do Composer update, you can, like, websites do sometimes break because of that. Like it's not a very safe process. A module that automatically updates other modules is also tricky because it has to have rights to actually write to the server, so that's a security issue there. And exactly as you mentioned, WordPress does have an update me. Okay, there's this. But you can update plugins in WordPress, right? By clicking a button within the admin interface, and you can, if you look through the forums and stuff, there are many people who have clicked that button and the website just crashed and they don't know what to do now. So I would be careful of that. But there are nice tools like we don't have that yet, but my ambition is to automate the update. Just like DropGuard is a solution, right? It makes sense if you have one website or two websites. It actually might make sense. Like you pay, I'm not sure, $30 a month. Yeah, it's not expensive, and it will do an automatic update for you. I haven't used it, but I talked to the maintainers of it, to the creators, quite a few times, and it's a solid solution. Internally, we are working on something similar because we just have a lot of websites. Like if we kind of calculated how it's budgeted for all of them, it would be a lot. So we are working ourselves on, like, we have the CI pipeline anyhow. So we are just kind of now trying to add add this feature where it updates automatically and tests itself automatically, and it is ready for deployment. Like we would not deploy automatically, but we would prepare it for deployment, and then you can CI. So CI is a solution for that as well. But it's you need to have it the whole pipeline set up. Right. So next question. I'll leave that one, and then. What do you think Drupal's best practices for front-end development, CSS, JavaScript, etc. Are these still outdated compared to the rest of the industry?
This is a really problematic question, because this is also we recommend the solutions that our developers knows the best. So it's very personal thing what is the best practice, because we all got the different experiences, we face many different problems, and I think there is no one best solution for everything. And it's really personal thing if something is the best or not the best practice. So I guess the best solution will be to talk about not good practices, if we agree, everyone. So,
Alexander, maybe you want to add something.
No, pure backend.
Pure backend.
I'll just say something here. If you look at the history of web development, you see that a lot has changed over the years. Remember, came from. It was the old days of PHP Nuke, PHP BB, and those days you PHP with HTML in the same file. Then after a while, oh, that's not a good idea. So let's separate HTML from PHP code. Now, we were talking earlier on about JavaScript framework just coming every day. Now, and that's because things have become more modularized. People are thinking more about code reuse than solutions like SAS and LESS. So these are tools designed to make the development process easier, more predictable, more manageable. Somebody can come from company A, move to company B, and boom, it gets to work right from day one because the practices, the principles are the same. Now, with the atomic design, all these things, they make things more predictable, right? And that also makes separation of concerns easier. Back-end development, one side, front-end, the other side. Now, if you work in a system, in a team that's got front-end work going on almost independently of back-end, even though they are in the same room, then it makes sense for front-end work to focus on doing things more the front-end way, so to speak, where you've got your task runners, you've got all this things set up. It makes life easier. You can write 10 lines of SAS, your SAS file. When you compile, you've got 30 lines in your CSS file, right? And it makes reuse easy. So, we've seen places like Symfony or Laravel where they're building, especially in Laravel, they're bringing in some of these front-end tools, right? You can actually switch your front-end. I can say React, you can switch to React and switch to Vue, or you can just continue with Blade, right? And I think Drupal might benefit from such solutions where just bring whatever you like. Just bring your own technology with you. If it's Vue, you can do it. If it's React, if it's Angular, let's just do our things our own way. But coupling front end and back end and tweak and pre-process and templates, front end guys want to do their own thing, and the back end guys want to do their own thing. So we should join the cool guys by doing the front end work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so
can I add something to this?
Sure, yeah. Please.
So basically, there is also one big pros of using CSS preprocessors, as a friend said. And so basically, if you want, for example, to create another website really similar to the one you front-ended before, you can use the variables within the CSS, LESS, or SAS, and you can just swap a few variables to change colors, change the gaps, like variable for gaps from 20 pixels to 25 pixels, 24 pixels, or something like this, and you get poof, Composer, Watch, no, not Composer, my apologies, Compass Watch, recombining the file, creating CSS, and everything is ready. So it's much more easier and quicker.
I suppose probably also, like if you look at Drupal and lifecycle, it's a system that kind of is big, so development is big, like takes a long time. Also, websites that are built on Drupal are usually not small websites. These are really big websites quite often. And I think it would be really difficult for Drupal to be on the bleeding edge of the latest front-end technology, I suppose, because then you risk choosing not the correct solution and you have to revise back and forth. I, for example, value Drupal for this, that it chooses, it kind of lingers maybe a little bit behind the latest. Yeah. No. Yeah, it's not. Maybe true, but like for example, you say that React is 6 years old. Now 6 years is not that much, to be honest. So if now Drupal considers using React as so for the admin stuff and stuff, for me, for example, this is the right time, right? If we were thinking about it, 4 years ago, might have been too early because like just with Angular, for example, there was one, then suddenly there was two, which was completely different, and it's if you start really early, and then now we have Vue.js as well, and then there's another framework coming up, and React is already big, but if Drupal chooses React, it will keep React for how many years? 5, 8. React, like Facebook might say, well, everybody might say, well, we don't use React anymore, and Drupal will still have to use React because of the websites that were built on it. So there's this trade-off of, security and stability, and moving fast and breaking things, I'd say. Yeah.
You just mentioned. What also? Yeah. I give Drew. So what you also mentioned, the fact security and stability on projects. With Drupal 8, we didn't just get Composer, but incredibly amount of third parties. Remember last year, we got a core update, Drupal 8 core update, when basically we got a totally new typo tree component, right? Some of you might remember. Last month, or it was this month, I don't know. Anyway, we got an update because of that typo tree, far wrapper, whatever, allowed some access bypass. So we got a new component, new third-party, whatever, to make Drupal more safe. Then it was discovered there are paths, there are ways to exploit something with that component or via that component. Then it's just, yet another third-party update. And if you see the last, let's say, 10 Drupal core security updates, many times we have third-party updates. That has to be tested in the public, in the private queue by the members. They heavily invest. But where are we going? I mean, is it the headless or decoupled approach to put there more and more dependencies, right? Shouldn't be. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's the point that I wanted to a little bit highlight. Like stability and maintainability and also security always go together. You get a bigger project. I think that might be the reason why React is still not in core, in Drupal core, is to somehow call Drupal core a Drupal project. React.js is a React project, right? Angular is an Angular project, and so on and so forth. Those boundaries should be kept based on my best. I mean, I wouldn't understand.
It probably might also be a problem, like when I was at a DrupalCamp London keynote speak on the closing on the admin UI on the React initiative, and there were these discussions of whether if we just had React on the admin UI, you can't be just a PHP developer, you have to know PHP and React, so the entry into Drupal gets even more difficult than it is because you have to know two languages. And then it's probably going to be TypeScript really because, that's the standard now. So that's even a higher level of difficulty really. And then to do anything in Drupal, you really need 2 or 3 people because one has to be a PHP specialist, the other has to be a, front-end JavaScript specialist. And also there were these discussions like in Drupal UI, you can change a lot of things, alter, forms, and in how to do that in React so that it's just as flexible, and then do you have to change the front end and then the back end? So
let me ask something. Most of you, I guess, being Polish, were here a few years ago, right? How big, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, the Polish community was when Drupal 8 just started to raise? Was it bigger? Anyone? Was it bigger, same size, smaller?
Compared.
Yeah.
It was similar. It was a little bit bigger last year, but we did much more marketing. We had more budget.
You got me. Come on, you did a great marketing. So the thing is, what I experienced year by year, basically, is getting the entry level for Drupal higher and higher and higher. So totally agree with that point. Like putting there more stuff increase complexity, right? In the other way, saying Drupal 8 is way more modern, we are keeping up new technologies, learning a lot, then I feel somehow we started to shrink. We started to get, be less. Less people are present. Okay, you can point to marketing. Take the example of DrupalCon Europe. Should I explain what I mean? Finance-wise, it's very hard to keep. Yeah. to get new people in Drupal. How do we get the people from universities when they finish, when they graduate, convincing them like, yeah, PHP is cool. Drupal is cool. They're like, what the heck is that? How much I will get? It's very hard. And when the entry level goes up, it should be followed by the salary, and it's very hard given the market to give more money to the junior, right? I mean, it's kind of business topic, but still, it might interest people who are here. Yeah. Great question. Why you are asking me? Because yeah, I get that. So the thing is, they have those WordCamp things like happening quite often. They have the bigger ones. What they focus on, how I see, I have never been at any WordPress conference, so don't put the blame on me. But the thing is, they really heavily involve the community. So there are very little occurrences of having like 50 to 100 people at one camp, but like massively hundreds of people. What is good in WordPress, not technology-wise, okay, so like Drupal, what is good there is the WordPress.org, where massively people host whatever they have WordPress. The thing is, they only use WordPress not as a coder. So there are many people in the WordPress community who just don't even know, I guess, is it written in PHP or JS or whatever. They use it, and that's the point. They use WordPress because entry level is super low. They can do whatever they want. They can click around. They got the Gothenburg. They got everything. What we got is, I can be like proud to say, the best of the best open source technology. I think so. But still, we don't get people. We don't get the money by, big enterprise level, and we get nothing. Just because we constantly increase because we love technology. Why? To get everything there. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we just turned to my question. Can we?
There's a question actually, the next one. How do we sell Drupal out of the box initiative using Umami went to core? How does it help companies promote Drupal?
There are basically two initiatives that we mentioned here. One is still an initiative, the other one went to core. That's the out of the box, which is represented by Umami and Umami demo and all the things like the profile, blah blah. The other one though is the promote Drupal. It's marketing stuff, heavily influenced by what's the name of that company that just got acquired by Acquia, Maciej, something like that one. I just don't know the name exactly. Anyway, so they are basically automatized marketing solutions. That's what they provide, and I think just by that business deal, the community will also get a lot, because Acquia is in the front of us always. They always serve Drupal core issues, support many initiatives and so on and so forth. But in the end of the day, we being here should do something to our clients, either convince them why Drupal is that great, why we do love work with Drupal. I mean, you do that. But the thing is that promote Drupal not necessarily on the initiative level, but on our everyday level. If you tell your neighbors what you do, you don't have to go to the details. You don't have to, explain the hook things and pre-process and whatever. Because the reason why they don't want to know that. They don't want to know, is it Drupal, is it Joomla, is it WordPress, is it PHP, BB, someone mentioned. But then they just want to get a website, right? Now, with WordPress, now with Drupal, like this.
It's finding the balance between quantity and quality. Anybody can download use because blogs, you can things. If you want to do things the right way and that kind of thing, then maybe you want to do either Drupal or Symfony. And I think Drupal is a very good place. I somewhere between WordPress, because with Symfony you have to build things yourself, right? And then, for instance, the admin, if you don't use the contributor, is it force admin bundle or what have you? You have to write your Laravel. You have to write your admin backend. But Drupal is there for you. It's somewhere between WordPress and something like I said. So yeah, we've got lots of advantages. That's what I can say.
May I also kind of chip in, like my observation, because I'm coming to this DrupalCamp in Wrocław since the very beginning, so it's my 8th conference. I've been on the first one as well. And looking at the attendees, it changes. I mean, on the first one, there were, I think, 60 people, so quite a lot still, or I don't remember exactly, but they were different. Like, there were no big companies, like you guys from Pega, or like the biggest company was probably like 4 people, and most of people were just kind of solo entrepreneurs doing stuff on Drupal, building stuff for themselves, for their clients, and so Drupal was different. Drupal was like you would use Drupal to build your friend's website, your small e-commerce shop, and this kind of changed now. 8 years forward, really big things are being built on Drupal. Drupal companies are getting bigger. Like there are still many smaller companies in Drupal, but there are more and more big companies. Like there are projects that now take 2 years or 6 developers to actually deliver, which I haven't seen those 8 years ago at all. And so this changes, like it's going more and more towards the enterprise. Everybody probably sees that, and this creates a different attendee of a conference, a different user. Like there are more and more developers who became Drupal developers because they got a job in a place that does Drupal and they just do Drupal and this number is increasing. Then again, you have probably less and less of people who just kind of wanted their first website, didn't know what to use and chose WordPress. Just because the entry level there and the effort is too high. And, my friend, when she wanted the website recently, just for a blog, I just told her, WordPress.com, you just pay a yearly fee. I'm not building that for you on Drupal because you just end up it's just going to be a lot of work. So this changes, right? So more and more people come to Drupal conferences because their employers can pay for it, and it's a bit different. But it's a different type of a user as well, and that might be changing. And we will see probably in the future, because I think we are in this shift all the time now, and this is happening. So, in 3 years, it might be that even more people come, because there are even more big companies that do Drupal on a daily basis. like we helped in Droptica, we helped quite a few companies at this time to adopt Drupal for the first time, and they will probably become users, and they will have their own developers, and they might come in 2 years here as well, hopefully. And that, and so this is a big difference. Like corporations now kind of might do this, because for example in Java, you don't have really, Java developers who are hobbyists and like, I'm just going to take Java as a hobby. Like, it doesn't happen too often. But there are big conferences on Java because that's an enterprise thing and many, many people just do it.
And not open source.
And it's not open source. And still, right? Yeah.
What I just wanted to say, like, okay, we always make that joke, like, WordPress, whatever. Please stop doing it. I mean, they are also people. By the way, they are super cool people. The thing is, recently, by many activities between TypoTree community, mainly from Germany still, and I have friends from Italy being extremely active in WordPress community. These folks are just great. They use different technologies, period. Please stop putting blame on them, because it makes no sense. And I always tell them, please don't judge us because we do use Drupal. That's yet another one. I mean, variety, right? Diversity. We keep repeating these words in a different context. Let's start to use them in our daily technical life, saying WordPress is another solution. What you said is great. You suggested your neighbor or friend use WordPress.org. Of course, because it serves his or her needs. In other cases, you might say, even to a possible business partner, I'm not providing TypoTree, but the need that you have might be served the best by TypoTree because of some reason. What the message here is, first, stop putting blame on others. Okay? That's it. Respect them. Second, invest time to understand their sources. Okay? You don't have to use it. You don't have to know yet another framework. That's not what I'm telling you. What I want to highlight here is when you promote Drupal, and kind of like answering my own question, when you try to promote Drupal, always keep in your mind, we are in open source, such as they are. So we shouldn't fight against other open source communities or products. But target Java. They have the money. Yes. Right? I mean, that was just a joke. How to update?
So just to come back to the questions, has anyone yet used Umami to present Drupal to a client? You did. Very well. How
Didn't
did it
work.
go?
Because, those are recipes and burgers. And it turned out the client is a vegan. And I was telling her, like, yeah, get it. It's great. It's beef. It's funny.
Okay, we have 3 minutes left, really. We can quickly touch on the theming question. Maybe we just kind of vote. If you theme, do you use a base theme or do you start from scratch?
So I would start with the question, what do you need? And how much client pay for it? because it's always the best solutions are the quickest one. If client wants you to pay you 2,000 zlotys for a web page, you won't create it from scratch. You will use, for example, Bootstrap, create a subtheme of Bootstrap, load a module for example, for a paragraph of Bootstrap, and quickly make a website, cache the client, make invoice. And it depends, because most likely the custom solution created from scratch are rarest examples. Because if you're creating something from scratch, it needs to be made to fit someone's needs. But on the projects that are most likely generic, they are repeatable, the client doesn't have a lot of cash, why doing everything from scratch? If you can use something to be a base of your product.
Use Wix.
Well, as you said, everything depends on the client needs and the budget. So for enterprise project, we usually build team from scratch. We never had the same team required by clients. Everyone had their own needs, their own breakpoints.
But would you use like a Bootstrap-based team or Zen or
nothing?
You actually create the info.yaml file.
Info.yaml file, and then our front-end team builds whatever they want and how they want. We fight with them to use Bootstrap, but it never works.
Okay. Okay, and we are out of time now, so thank you very much for listening and participating. Thank you, panelists, for your contribution. Hope you enjoyed it. I think we now have lunch, right? No? Okay, I don't have a card. So yeah, you have your cards on the back of their cards. There's a program, and that's what's happening next. It's written there. Thank you very much again.